Namaskar and a very good afternoon to everyone who is present here, all the Didis and Dadas who are here present on the platform of Shri Shri Anand Murthy ji Vision. I welcome you all today here, and it's my honor to introduce you all to Professor Sohail Inayatullah, who is inaugural UNESCO chair and in future studies, and since 2000 he's professor in Tamkang University, Taiwan, and he is also author of trilogy on PR Sarkar. Namaskar, Dada.
Namaskar.
Namaskar.
So today on this platform, we will analyze on topic that is COVID-19 futures, and the now platform is yours. Please.
Thank you very much for introduction. It's great to be here. I first started to read about P.R. Sarkar and his work in 1975. And so I'm thrilled to present on how we can think about the future, particularly COVID-19, using PROUT as a lens. So that's the title of my presentation, is Closed Doors or Portal to a New World, Responding to COVID-19. So I think the way to start to think about it is through something called narrative. Narrative are the stories, the lenses we use to understand the world. If you go back to the global financial crisis 12 years ago, people were trying to understand what's going on. Is it a mortgage crisis? Is it a banking crisis? Is it deeper a financial crisis? Is it about the sustainability of the planet? The conclusion for many institutions was see this as a narrow way, much more as a mortgage banking crisis. So the strategy they came up with was save Wall Street, but forget about Main Street. So the narratives we use have a decisive impact on the strategy we choose. If you think it's just a flu, then you don't worry about it. Of course, until, as in the US, over 200,000 people die. So stories matter. Which stories do we choose to make sense of the world? So I want to use the classic Indic episteme to start to understand what are our possible futures. This is the Tama, Raja, Sattva. Tama is restrictive, Raja is active, Sattva is sentient, service and spirit. Raja is action at all levels, Tama is fear and ego. So if you start to think it from a Tama view, basically this is a zombie apocalypse. There's fear everywhere. The fear is from people that are different from us. Now, what does that lead itself to? Within the Tama perspective, you get something called conspirituality. Con, to fool someone. So this approach called QAnon. We have in India, people say there's corona terrorists. There's Jews behind COVID-19. It gates and biochipping. Now, why do they take such restrictive Tamasic perspectives? Generally, we see because they're science illiterate. As you know, Sarkar was very clear, focus on science, rationality, evidence. So we see in places that have Tama, they believe 1 in 4 in the US believe sun goes around the earth. Now, to be a bit gracious here is also powerlessness. They feel powerless about their ability to influence the world. So thus they invent conspiracy theories. So conspiracy theories, however, for those of us trying to make a better world, a new humanistic world, they help us understand the world we do not want, to create the world we do. The second part of Tama is you blame someone. You blame someone who's different than you. So instead of looking at science, reality, and spiritual change, you focus on blaming someone every day so you don't take responsibility. So this is the Tama worldview. In the Tama worldview, the fascists can enter. The fascists are people who focus on ethnicity and they want to corporatize. It's about money and blaming someone. So they use race for political victory. They blame refugees. They know if they go to fear, they can win elections. Their main thing is exclusion. We know refugees are doing worse in COVID-19. Females are doing worse. So instead of protection, they blame. They use sentiment instead of science. What's the result? We look at the three countries who are using, in fact, Tamasic perspectives. They're leading in fact, COVID cases. So this creates the great despair. People feel bad about the future, they're nervous about the future, and they blame each other. Now, Rajasic is the second possibility. Rajasic, we're going from Tamasic to active. So Rajasic, perspective one is called hammer and dance theory. This is called basically, you have lockdowns. You act quickly, you act decisively, you stop the spread. You have COVID health workers looking at transmission, tracing. And then you open up borders, and of course, then you have to hammer again. So this is this hammer and dance. The second part of Raja is global science. Global science, sharing the genome, sharing information, sharing knowledge, finding ways to make vaccines cheaper. This is the Vipras innovating to create a better world. We see this, for example, in Australia and Melbourne. They had among the worst possibilities 2 months ago. They did the hammer and dance, and now they've crushed the second wave. They used warriors to police people so they don't spread the virus. Now, of course, Melbourne is Melbourne. In India, I love this image that was posted by a colleague. You use local knowledge to stop it. You find stories within your own culture to basically arrest the spread of COVID-19. But Raja is also about anticipating. It's not just action for warriors, it's action for the mind, saying what's next. So we're watching out for the next disease. Unless we change cities going to rural areas, unless we change industrial meat production, unless we change city design, unless we develop global early warning systems, these will keep on going. We need to be prepared for the future and have legislation globally and nationally to get ready for the next disease. And we know that comes from wet markets. Of course, we have to be compassionate toward the poor. We're making money here, but we have to give them alternatives so they don't sell in wet markets. After, we know here the next 5, 7, 10 years, there's a financial crisis. So in a financial crisis, what do? Clearly, you have to protect the poor. You have to focus not just on economic growth, but economic equity. So you need things like universal basic assets. You have to have funds ready and available for poorer nations. You have to make what's called structural changes. Do we need to work 5 days a week in big cities? Why not 4 days a week? Sarkar talked about one day we'll just work 1 day a week if you use technology widely. We have to also become flexible. Twitter already says we won't need to come back to work. You can work from home forever. White collar, professional workers, this should be a situation where we don't centralize. Sarkar talked about this in the 1950s. Decentralization, use technologies wisely. In my book on Prout and Power, we talk about yoga economics. What are the lessons from yoga? Have flexible work, flexible arrangements. Yoga is being adaptable, adapt to the new economy. Yoga is slowing down. Slow down this year so you can speed up next year. The structural changes also move towards cooperatives. What would the world look like if the large corporate pharmaceuticals, we created pharmaceutical co-ops where the scientists were in fact were the ones in charge of the product and the process and the wealth. People's run pharma co-ops. Finally, the last part of Raja is developing anticipatory systems. The ability to see the emerging future, prepare for it, and act. We saw in the lockdown, pollution decreased. As the roads, as cars are allowed back in, pollution comes back. So we know we can design society and civilization with less pollution. This is also the space for truth-telling. Raja says, tell the truth, say what's real. And thus we see groups that are marginalized, they're hit much worse than COVID-19. In the US, it's the Black Lives Matter movement. Now there's SATTVA. SATTVA is about transforming, changing the rules, changing the game. So we have meditation and service. The heroes are those at the front line taking risk, helping people. So SATTVA uses meditation and social service as a way your response to COVID-19. You move from GDP to well-being. You focus on societal well-being, new measures of the economy. The Indian novelist Arundhati Roy says it's a portal to a new world, a portal to awakening. COVID-19 is a chance for inner awakening, more meditation, external awakening, challenging the dogmas. We know COVID-19 spreads more when people are not disciplined. COVID-19 spreads more when they don't take care of the weakest. It spreads everywhere. It's not just for the elite, it's a way to ensure a far better society. We see in the US, failure is lost in dogma, superstition, not science. So that's why we're talking about a new humanistic polity. Not just new humanistic education, but what would a new humanistic polity look like? Where leaders don't think of their ego or family, their tribe, their village, or even their religion, but they think of the planet. We know Sarkar talked about, why don't we want to do this? Because national leaders are afraid to give up power. But here we're saying, COVID-19 is saying, we must act for the greater good. We must act for the planet. Nature first, humans as well. So this means a global awakening. Imagine global organizations with teeth, real global public health. Imagine going from just profit to prosperity, planet, people, and purpose. Imagine budgets being focused on well-being, not just on industrialism. So this in the health world is called the 5P revolution. The patient at the center, prevention, personalized, precision, partnership, participation. So COVID-19 suggests the traditional health model won't work. We need an entire new health model. So this is about deep inclusion. If you look at this image, everyone's included in nature. Everyone's invited. As everyone's invited, there's more efficiency and there's more prosperity. So if we see it this way, today, if you look at it's racism, we want to have more equity, but ultimately we want a world where all consciousness matters. New humanism is the guiding culture. The economy is run by co-ops. There's a maxi mini and purchasing capacity is chasing you. So we want to see this as an opportunity to shift culture and to shift economy. But we don't know what's going to happen, do we? Right now, we're in a period of uncertainty. For many, it's a period of anxiety. Will this occur or will that occur? What in fact will happen? Will we become more tamasic, more rajasic, or is there a possibility for a sentient culture to emerge? We don't know. So we look at something called scenarios. Scenarios are possible futures. When we don't know, we look at alternatives. No one knows the future. The future is being created by global, national, local policy. The future is being created by our ideas, our imagination. So scenario one is what's called zombie apocalypse. In uncertainty and fear, we attack the vulnerable, we blame them. We can't control it. We can't control it. We can't we attack. Is the needed pause. We see this year, the difficult year, as a time to slow down. If you're locked up, what do? I have one friend locked up. He said, I'm stuck in this room for a month. And we said, maybe it's a great time for prayer, a great time for meditation. It's a great time for reflection. It's a difficulty, but what do? So you start to see this as the needed pause for society, which was perhaps going too quick in the wrong direction. What's the better direction becomes the discussion. And what is the better direction? Scenario 3 is the global health awakening. Again, what I said earlier, prosperity. We want more wealth. Prout is very clear to increase demand, to increase the greater needs of citizens for educational needs, health needs, clothes needs, food needs. It's demand driven. It's also people driven. We know economies are more efficient when you include people. Boards are more effective when females are included. So gender equity is critical here. Minorities are critical. Persons with disability are critical. The third is planet. You can't have an economy if nature is not respected. Prout is very clear. Nature is the foundation of the economy. There's a movement even called anticipatory plants. Plants that can anticipate diseases in the home. They can anticipate mold. So you're trying to develop plants that can help you figure out, are you healthy? There's a movement called the city with a Fitbit. Fitbit is for personal health. How is your heart? How much are you running? But you're going to design a city so everyone knows how to make it healthier. Where's their pollution? Where's their congestion? Where's their depression? So planet first. Finally, Prout is about purpose. Where do you want to go? Where do we wish to be in 2030, 2050, 2060? It's a spiritual vision of the future. But of course, there's a negative scenario out there as well. This is called the Great Despair. Countries fracture. Right now it's bad, but imagine this continues for a decade. Nation states fracture. Countries put up walls. There's minor wars, serious wars. We can already see in the Asia Pacific region all the hotspots. So imagine 10 years of this. Clearly, we don't want zombie apocalypse. The pause is our rest time. Clearly, we don't want the great despair. We probably want the great health awakening, the personal awakening. But the goal is we don't know the future, so we look at alternatives to be ready for any future. Now, what's the Prout cure? Sri Sarkar was very clear. Medicine is that which cures. No dogma. Does it work? That's medicine. So what is the collective medicine here? The medicine for the planet. First, system. Exercise, meditation, yoga, attract positive microvita by your thoughts, by your service. Second, enhance the collective immune system. The collective immune system is of the planet, of your country, of your village, of your city. That means laws to ensure clean, green, safe cities. Public health first. You may do yoga meditation, but if you're born in a poor place, a place with pollution, you're not going to live that long. So it doesn't matter what you're doing personally if the collective immune system is compromised. Prout enhances the individual immune system and the collective immune system. Third, it's progressive. We want the life chances, the possibilities of all groups to increase. That means equal access of vaccines for everyone, not just for the wealthy. Equal access to hospitals for everyone, not just for the wealthy. Equal access of antibiotics for everyone, not just for the wealthy. So first, your personal immune system. Second, the collective immune system. Third, a progressive immune system. Now, fourth, what do we decide in terms of expenditure? Prout is also very clear. Multiple health systems. Food as medicine. Your general practitioner, your doctor is medicine. Inner meditation is medicine. But what should decide it? Dada Shambhu Shivananda, when I asked him, he said at Gurukul, science is the controlling faculty, not superstition. Science is the controlling faculty. So Prout is science, logic-led. We include all systems, medicines that which cures, but we're very clear. So we're adapting to changing conditions. But the entire global system, as Sarkar says, the key task is the welfare of the patient. It's the person at the center. So what's our role? Each one of us. COVID-19 is a virus spreading around the world. It's today's pandemic. There will be future pandemics. There's climate change coming. What's our role in all of this? Again, Sri Sarkar was very clear. He says, become the exception. In evolutionary terms, the most important factor is the exception. It's the exceptions that create the future. They construct something new. So his suggestion is become the exception, do something extraordinary, do something different. Don't go the path of the normal way, create something else. Now, what should be the culture then? Is it survival of the fittest, or a journey where no one is left behind? Sarkar says it's a journey where no one is left behind. Everyone is included. COVID-19 responses where everyone is included, they do better. Deaths are fewer and the economy is better. So to sum up, which way will we go? We can have the story of me, myself, and my tribe. We can have the worldview of social Darwinism, some ahead, some below. We can have systems of privilege, and the main headline is who wins the race. Or we could change the story. The pilgrimage, the worldview is New Humanism, not Pakistani, Indian, Bangladeshi, Sri Lankan, but human first, planet first. What's their economic system? It's social justice, demand driven. And what's our measurement? All win, we call it the quadruple bottom line. You're measuring prosperity demand, you're measuring purpose, you're measuring people, and you're measuring planet, all doable, and that becomes a global proud index. So we expand it. Single to quadruple bottom line. So let me close on this. Who are we? Where are we going? In this image, we leave nature and become just science and technology. Humans above nature. Or do we have this image? Humans with nature, with science and technology, with spiritual guidance, including the ancestors, the knowledge of the indigenous people. So this is a very different imagination of what we can create, what the future can be. Which way will it be? For P.R. Sarkar, he was very clear. It's our actions, there's structures, but it's also what's called the élan vital of cosmic consciousness. So his conclusion is the future of the human race is not dark, rather it is strikingly resplendent. Those who wish to follow up on this, there's our book on this subject, Prout and Power, available from Prout Delhi and available from our website, metafuture.org. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for listening. And I hope you found this useful in developing COVID-19 strategies from a Prout perspective. Thank you very much.